Welcome back to the Final Shot Podcast. Today, the podcast is brought to you by Onnit. If you're not on it, get on it at onnit.com/TFS podcast and save 10%. If you guys are looking for Alpha Brain, Shroom Tech Sport, Shroom Tech Immune, Creatine, what else they got? Fucking battle ropes, maces, kettlebells. Go to onnit.com/TFS podcast and make your purchase. We're also brought to you by USG Canada. They make some of the finest training gear in the sport of boxing and mixed martial arts. This is the new X Series glove that Howie came up with. They're fantastic. I love the black on black. Those are nice. Howie also makes custom walkout gear, some of the best stuff you've ever seen. All of your sponsors and logos and all that are printed into the fabric, so there's no heavy patches that go on your shorts anymore. So hit up my boy Howie. It's Howie at usgcanada.com. Send him an email, work something out. You can also go to their brand new website. It's usgfightgear.net. Check them out. If you make a purchase online, use the promo code The Final Shot and you'll save some money on your purchase. We're also brought to you by TKO Beards. Guys, you can see the giant beard on the front of my face. These are the only beard products I put in it. It's fantastic. They are Canadian made, Edmonton, Alberta. So hit up TKO Beards and get yourself some beard products. We're also brought to you by Sovereign Extracts, the best CBD THC products you can find. You get the drops, 1-to-1 drops, full THC drops, or full CBD drops. You get the vape tips. They come with the nifty little battery cartridge too. I think I got one down here somewhere. This one full? No, that one's empty. My bad. But anyway, Sovereign Extracts, you can find them on the USG website. We're also brought to you by the Clinch Fight Shop, the best fight shop in Edmonton, Alberta. It's the Clinch Fight Shop, so go check them out. That's theclinchfightshop.com. Guys, for anything that you want to purchase, one of my sponsors or anything, go to linktree/The Final Shot Podcast. All the links are there. You click the link, the promo code's automatically entered, and you can make your purchase right from there. Let's get into the podcast. You can see I got no guest today. If you're on the YouTube, we're going to do a solo cast. We're going to talk about a lot of the stuff going on in combat sports in recent weeks and months. We're going to start off with the Eye of the Tiger card that just happened on the weekend. Before we even get into the card, we have to thank everybody involved with Eye of the Tiger. Camille Estevan, Emmanuel Estevan, Antonin Dakari. These guys are still putting on fight cards in Canada, even though it's hard as hell to do it, but they're still keeping the flame burning for boxing here in Canada. So thank you to everybody at Eye of the Tiger Management and Punching Grace for keeping it going. But they had a big card on the weekend that was headlined by Steve the Dragon Claggett and Matthew G. Time Germain. But first, we'll talk about the Brie Howling fight. Brie Howling versus Erica Hernandez. 4-round fight. Both ladies fought hard. It was I really fucking hate these two minute or the 2 minute rounds in these female fights. It makes it tough for the ladies to get going, but we'll talk about the 2 minute rounds in a minute. Brie Howling, Erica Hernandez put on a hell of a show. Brie Howling getting the nod from the judges. I also gave her the win, 3-1. I know some people out there were saying that it was a robbery or that Erica Hernandez deserved the decision. I don't want to say that you're wrong, but if you go back and watch the fight, the first 3 rounds were very clearly Brie Howling's, just with precision and not really any wasted punches were tossed. Erica Hernandez was always moving forward and working, but a lot of the punches missed or were blocked in the first 3 rounds. I did give Erica Hernandez the 4th round, where she did land a lot of shots. And very fun fight to watch, but we'll get into the 2 minute round thing. I think these ladies deserve 3 minute rounds, and I think it's a shame that the boxing commissions don't put it on. I don't really know how to change it unless the ladies start speaking up and saying that they want 3 minute rounds. Back in the day, MMA, ladies used to fight three minute rounds instead of 5 minute rounds. Now all the ladies fights are 5 minute rounds, And a lot of that is thanks to a lady named Sarah Kaufman, who fought really, really hard to get 5-minute rounds in MMA for the ladies, and it happened. I know that Bree really wants 3-minute rounds for the ladies in boxing, and I think it's only fair. I don't want to say that with 3-minute rounds, the fight's very, very different, where they're going to have a little bit more time to work and set things up instead of kind of go balls to the wall and smash each other and just try to land as many punches in a short amount of time as possible, because achieving a knockout in a 2-minute round is very, very hard. There's not a whole heck of a lot of time to set things up, so they just kind of going meeting in the middle of the ring and chucking bombs like rock'em sock'em robots. If you look at a lot of these fights that are 2 minutes, I'd say that they're a little bit more dangerous than a 3-minute round. I know that's going to sound kind of silly, that we're adding an extra minute on, but there's more time to work and lure your opponent into traps instead of just meeting head on and throwing as hard as you can until somebody, like, just trying to knock your opponent out as quickly as possible. So I think we should really, really harp on the situation that these ladies need 3-minute rounds. Let's get it done. And I really, really hope it happens. But congratulations to both Brie Howling and Erica Hernandez. You guys put on one hell of a fight. The main event was Steve Claggett versus G-Time. I had to watch the fight a couple times and go back. The first time I watched it as a big Steve Claggett fan. He's a friend. And I was really pulling for him to win. After I watched it the first time, acting as a fan, I had Steve winning. I went back a second time and watched it with no commentary. I also watched it as a Steve Claggett fan, and I had him winning. And then the third time, I went back and watched it with no commentary. Left the friendship kind of at the door, and scored it as I would score any other boxing card, and I had to give it to G-Time. He did a fantastic job in the fight. He fought better than I thought he was going to coming off of the Junior Ulysses loss. It was interesting to see how he bounced back, and he looked fantastic. So congratulations to G-Time. Steve Claggett fought very, very well, especially for the circumstances that he entered that fight in. I'm not going to air Steve's dirty laundry on here. I spoke to him today. He said I could say whatever I want, but I'll leave that for him to come on a podcast at a later date, and we'll discuss what was going on in his personal life, because it's pretty tragic, and I don't know how he stepped in the ring that night and fought as well as he did, especially with the circumstances in his professional life that he's dealing with not having a coach, not having a team, and basically just showing up with a couple buddies and throwing down. I don't attribute all of that negativity with having no coach and no team just on Steve himself. Steve also has a promoter, and he also has people that can look after him in that way. So I'm going to pin a little bit of it on Eye of the Tiger, where this is one of your main guys. You need to be looking at him and saying, what the hell are you doing? Okay, let's figure something out and let's get you situated. But I know Steve is now looking to, I don't want to say relocate, but looking for a team. He's looking for somewhere to call home where he can get the work in that he needs with top tier partners. He needs sparring partners that are on his level, not guys that are below his level or that he has to pull his punches with to get ready for these fights. Like, he's fighting the best guys that Canada has to offer. Like, some of these guys are ranked fairly high in the world, like Junior Ulysses, G-Time. So he needs to have the people that can back him so that he feels comfortable getting in there and he's put in the work and all that. Because when I watched that fight, I think it was in the third round, there was a look on his face, and I was like, oh man, this guy feels like he's alone in there. And what a terrible feeling to be in a legit fist fight with a dude that's just as good as you are, who's trained harder than you, maybe. I don't want to say he trained harder than Steve, but He probably had a little bit more amenities than Steve did leading up to the fight, so he's able to put in a little bit better work with sparring partners and just coaches and all of that around him. So I hope Steve gets it figured out here soon. I don't want to shit on him, but fuck, man, you need a coach. The the number one downfall to anything in a fighter's career is if they start calling the shots themselves. They don't have a coach. They don't have somebody telling them what to do or somebody looking out for them like their team. So this guy deserves to have everything. He deserves the coach. He deserves the team. He needs it. Steve's world class. He's, in my mind, the number 140-pound fighter in Canada. So let's get him a team. Let's get the people around him that he leads, and let's get this kid a world title. Other than that, I'll throw out a couple scenarios that maybe Steve could do. There is a coach in Calgary. His name is Jared Velasquez. He's a super nice guy. He's super knowledgeable. He might be a good guy for Steve to team up with while he's in Calgary. I don't think that Steve should be doing fight camps in Calgary. I think that Steve should take a page out of Ryan the Real Deal Ford's book. Train at home, do your thing at home, but when it comes time to get down and get the business, you go to a fight camp. And I know there's a lot of people out there that hate that. Like, just the sound of entering a fight camp sounds weird to them. But this is what I think he needs to do. I think he needs to go away from home, not sleep in his bed, get uncomfortable and get the work in and get it done with world-class people. I think that the Eye of the Tiger has great coaches over there and people that he could rely on to get him ready for these big fights. So that's just my 2 cents. I don't know what the hell he's going to do or what's on his mind, but that's what I think he should do. So let's see what happens with Steve, and we'll be keeping an eye on him, and we'll have him on the podcast very soon. Other than that, the whole Eye of the Tiger card was great to watch. So guys, if you're a Canadian boxing fan or if you're just a boxing fan, period, pay attention to what Eye of the Tiger is doing, and definitely go and subscribe to their streaming service, punchinggrace.com. It's the only place where you can watch these fights is on punchinggrace.com, and it's cheap. It's $11 a month. They bill you quarterly, so it's $33 every 3 months, and you get all of their events on there for that price. It's crazy. You can watch back events. You can watch original content. They got a podcast on there now. Unfortunately, I don't understand a goddamn word they're saying, so I wish they'd do something in English. Maybe bring me in and do something in English. Just a thought. But punchinggrace.com. Go out and support it. It's $11 a month. UFC 262 went down on the weekend, and we tried to figure out what was going on with that lightweight belt. They put Michael Chandler, the former Bellator champion, versus Charles Oliveira, the number 1 contender. Well, number 3 contender. I think Dustin Poirier is the number 1 contender. First round was dicey. Oliveira got caught, and he was in a little bit of trouble in the first round. But Michael Chandler's a beast, man. He's such a nice dude, too. So I found myself conflicted watching the fight because just being a UFC fan for so long, I don't want to see a Bellator guy come in, get one fight, and then instantly win the title. It would hurt my feelings. So I was cheering for Charles Oliveira, but I was also cheering for Michael Chandler. I didn't know who I wanted to win. But either which way, Charles Oliveira made the decision for me 19 seconds into the second round and put Michael Chandler away. And what a celebration he had after the fact. Like, if you guys go and look at Charles Oliveira's history with the UFC, he's been there for 10 or 11 years. He's had ups and downs and all this. And then he goes out and wins the world title. Now, granted, he didn't beat the world champion that gave up the belt in Khabib, but in my eyes, Khabib retired. He left. He doesn't want to do it no more. We don't need to forget about Khabib, but we need to forget about him in the world title talks. He gave it up. It's time to turn the chapter, turn the page, and start a new chapter. And Charles Oliveira is the champion. So congratulations to him. It's going to be fun to see who he's going to fight next because we got Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier 3 coming up. And we're going to... I'm hoping we see the original Conor back again, where he's talking shit and he's fired up to fight, because the friendly shaking hands and kissing babies Conor just didn't get it done. So I think he's got a fire lit under his ass. He wants to be the champion again, and hope either which one, it doesn't matter to me who wins really. Charles Oliveira versus Dustin Poirier or Conor McGregor is a great fight. The other fight on the UFC card I want to talk about is the Tony Ferguson versus Beneil Dariush fight. I was never a giant Tony Ferguson fan. I always watched his fights, but never sat there and rooted for him like I did when he fought on the weekend. And I really wanted Tony to win because he's had a string of bad luck. He's a different guy. He's never trained really traditionally. He goes out to Big Bear and does weird shit for 6 hours a day. He's running around and throwing rocks and picking up sticks, and we don't know really what Tony Ferguson's doing. So now we've seen him transition over. He's training with Freddie Roach. He's trying to get it back, but the question is it too little too late, or can he turn it around? Against Beneil Dariush on the weekend, he could not. He got absolutely dominated for 3 rounds. And it was sad to see a guy that just a couple months ago was at the top of the heap, and now he's fallen down so hard. And I hope he can pick it back up and make one more run, because I think he deserves it. But we'll see what happens with Tony Ferguson. Who fucking knows? The fight game is such a... I apologize. I shouldn't call it the fight game because I don't even like that name. Just fighting in general is such a crazy sport. It can be one punch or one takedown or one kick, and it can turn everything around, and you have no idea what the fuck's going on anymore. Now, I get a lot of questions sent in about Jake Paul and Logan Paul and what the Paul sisters are doing, and do I agree with it or do I have a problem with it? Do I like them? Do I dislike them? I can't say that I dislike either one of them. Am I going to follow them on Instagram? Probably. Am I going to follow them on Facebook? I don't even know if they have Facebook. But I want to know what they're doing, but at the same time, I don't really condone what they're doing. The bigger one right now is Jake Paul, who's kind of put a hit out on all MMA fighters, and that's what he wants to take out in the sport of boxing, which is difficult for me because if he wants to be taken seriously as a real boxer, he can't be going out and fighting Ontario bags of milk like fucking Ben Askren, or NBA stars like Nate Robinson, or YouTube guys like KSI. I don't even know if he fought KSI. One of the Paul sisters fought the KSI guy. But they can't be going out and picking these fights and trying to call them professional boxing. Now, I'm going to contradict myself a whole bunch of times through this conversation, but I'm going to try to make it make sense at the end. So, Jake Paul fancies himself a boxer now because he's won 3 fights against 3 guys that don't box. So what do you do if you're Jake Paul now? He's been called out. Like, he owes Dylan Dennis a fight. Let's just start there. He hit Dylan Dennis in the face with a fucking roll of wet toilet paper that Brendan Schaub set up, even though he doesn't want to admit that he set that up, and he never will admit that he set that up, but he set that up. Brendan, it's pretty easy to, like, 1 + 1 makes 2. You had Jake Paul on the week before, and then you have Dylan Dennis on the next week. Like, you didn't tell Jake where you're going to be? Come on, man. It's not fucking rocket science. You set that shit up in the hopes that you were going to be able to make a buck off the fucking goddamn pay-per-view, which you got axed from, which is hilarious to me, and you're upset about it. But anyway, back to Jake Paul. So Jake Paul just beat Ben Askren, knocked him out in the first round. Ben Askren made a cool $2 million, walked out of the arena smiling, showed up looking like he's been being a dad for the last 15 years. Like, if you seen that guy at the beach, you'd have no idea he's a legit wrestler, a former world champion in MMA. You'd have no fucking idea. So Ben Askren jumps in there a couple weight classes higher than he normally fights, gets hit in the face, and goes down. Cool. Nobody cares. Some people care, but I really don't. But Jake Paul, he wants to be considered a legitimate boxer. So how does Jake Paul become a legitimate boxer? He has to fight boxers. He's not willing to do that at this point. Like, Jake can't render pay-per-views with fighting a boxer that's 0-3 or 1-2 or 1-1 or 1-0 or 3-0. These guys don't have a name. So if they say Jake Paul's fighting John Smith next week, nobody's buying that motherfucking pay-per-view. So Jake has to find names that he can beat or at least be competitive with and try to make a go of this thing. So after the Ben Askren fight, you got a laundry list of guys that you could probably talk into getting into a fight. But if Jake Paul wants to be considered, and I'm going to put it in quotation marks, if you guys are on the YouTube, you're seeing it, legit, he needs to fight a Tyron Woodley. I know he's free from a UFC contract, so you got to fight a Tyron Woodley. Mike Perry would be a fantastic idea. I heard Diego Sanchez's name being tossed around. Like, these guys are legit badasses. Tyron Woodley's got hands. Mike Perry's got hands, and he's tough. But I don't think he'll do that. I think the most logical situation for Jake Paul is probably Dylan Dennis, a guy that doesn't have great stand-up. He's world-class on the ground, but that ain't going to help you in a boxing fight. And probably get him another win. But eventually, at some point, this train ends for him, and he can't pull it off anymore. There's a very short space for these novelties. And if you just keep beating a horse to death, the same thing over and over and over and over again. Jake Paul's going to fight a wrestler. Jake Paul's going to fight a MLB guy. Jake Paul's going to fight a fucking NHL guy. It gets old quick. Realistically, everybody tunes in to see you get beat. So at some point, you're going to have to give the fans what they want to see. You're going to have to get your ass whooped. In my mind, better sooner than later. So my first pick is Tyron Woodley that Jake Paul should fight. They had a little bit of a skerfuffle in the back at the Ben Askren fight. There was words exchanged. Some other guy that I've never heard of got involved in it. Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley is my first pick. My second pick is Jake Paul versus Platinum Mike Perry. Platinum Mike Perry needs to make some motherfucking money, and he needs a win. Beating the shit out of Jake Paul would be a fantastic feather in Mike Perry's cap right now, being a new father. I'm changing it. My first pick's Mike Perry. Give the fucking fight to Mike Perry. Mike Perry's a bad motherfucker. He's got hands. He boxes. I know in Florida they could get him ready for that fight. Dario Berdician's down there. He trains with Platinum Mike every once in a while. I know that Mike Perry could come in ready for a fight against Jake Paul and win that fight. So my vote is for Platinum Mike Perry versus Jake Paul next. Also, some bullshit happened Floyd Mayweather is going to fight Logan Paul in a stupid, they're calling it an exhibition boxing match. So they have a press conference on the weekend, and I'm going to call him Jacob from now on because it sounds like a child's name, and that's exactly what this was. So Jacob Paul showed up to the press conference, and he's being a little shithead. And he's untying Floyd Mayweather's shoes. And then at the end of it, there's a scrum, and Jake Paul's in there, and he snatches his hat. Now, at the end of this story, what he did was brilliant. But when you snatch a guy's hat, you better figure out what kind of guy he is first. And this is what makes me think that the Paul brothers have exactly zero idea of what these real boxers are about. Like, Floyd Mayweather's a street guy. There's a reason why he boxed. He had nothing else. Like, there's a reason why Mike Tyson boxed. He had nothing else. He was a street kid. There's a reason why these things happen. So when you disrespect a guy like Floyd Mayweather, all hell's gonna break loose. Realistically, Floyd should have probably pulled out a Sharpie and asked if he wanted an autograph on the hat. That would have been the smart move, because it would have put this whole thing to bed real quick. But what happened was Floyd freaked out. The fucking Megatron or Voltron or whatever the fuck got involved. Jake Paul got his shirt ripped, ran away, still with the fucking hat, and then jumped on an airplane, launched a new hat product. It's called Gotcha Hat, and sold millions of them, plus got a tattoo on the airplane of Gotcha Hat. Shit went viral, and what the guy's doing is fucking brilliant. If a regular dude like me does something dumb like this, it gets nothing. But this guy comes in with like 14 million 14-year-old followers who think this bullshit's funny. But it's going to end well. It's not going to end well for one of these two brothers. And Logan Paul is going to get the shit kicked out of him because of what his brother did when he fights Floyd Mayweather. I don't think that there's any situation on the planet where this fight does not happen. I think it happens now. Jake's banned from the building. He's not allowed to go in there. So, is what it is. At the end of the day, whatever the Paul sisters are doing seems to be working. But I don't like it. The reason I don't like it is because they're branding it as boxing. What these two guys are doing is entertainment. And I 100% believe that there's a space for this. And there's an area for them in entertainment to pull this crap off. If you guys remember way back in the day, there was a thing called So You Want to Fight. And two guys that wanted to fight each other got in the ring with 16-ounce gloves on, headgear. They had 1 minute rounds, and they go balls to the wall and beat each other up for a minute. I think there were 2 or 3 rounds, so like 3 minutes in total, maybe. I do think that there's a lane for what these kids are doing, but it can't be branded as boxing or a combat sport. It does dilute what professional boxers are doing, and especially when it's on fucking Trilla, and you got Snoop Dogg, Higher Than Giraffe Pussy, you got poor Mario Lopez. You got Mario Lopez trying to rein this thing in. Like, AC Slater was trying to do work on this, and you got Al Bernstein just fucking, he's looking around like he's not even supposed to be there. So why am I even involved in this? And you got Brendan Schaub at home crying because he's not on the fucking show. You guys should have put Schaub on there because it would have been perfect. But I'm very glad that Israel Adesanya wasn't at the second one, because what a fucking nightmare that was. You got slap contests, you got Justin Bieber singing, it was just a whole shit mess but either which way. So poor old Mario, poor Mario Lopez. AC Slater tried so hard to rein that in, and Snoop Dogg just kind of took over. But this is to my point, where this is entertainment, and there's people out there that are going to like this shit, and it's mostly people that probably sit at home, watch sitcoms at night, eat Cheetos. There's a lane for this, so it just needs to be branded in the proper area, and I vote for it to continue happening as long as it gets branded in the way that it should get branded, not as professional boxing or professional MMA or professional kickboxing. Keep doing your thing, but just brand it as, like, I don't know, combat entertainment. Do something. Just change it, because what you guys are doing is not professional. Not even close. So, not unless Jake Paul really wants to fight some boxers. And then we got some Canadian guys that I throw in there with him. Ryan Rozicki, Ryan Ford. These fights for him don't go well, though. So, it's not a fact of if he'll do it. It's that he'll never do it. I think he continues to fight guys that are lesser, make millions of dollars, and then ride off into the sunset, do his fucking TikTok videos, and who knows what he's going to do. I also said that I would respond to Brennan Schaub. The comment that he made that drove me a little bit nuts on one of his 14 different podcasts. I can't remember what it was. What he had said was that Jake Paul was doing exactly what all starting professional boxers do, is they fight lesser people, which is true and it's false. So when a boxer's coming up, they usually go through the amateur ranks, do that, and then they turn pro. So let's just say whoever is turning pro, they're having their debut fight. They're usually going to fight a guy that's 0-0 or 0-1 or 1-0 or 0-2 or 1-2 or some shit like that. But they're still training as a professional boxer for years. So when Brennan kind of throws this out there that he's doing exactly what all up-and-coming professional boxers do, he's fucking wrong. Brennan Schaub needs to stay in his goddamn lane. Sure, he was a top 10 contender in the UFC in the heavyweight division back when Mirko Krokop was still running around and Gabriel Gonzaga. And I'm not going to disrespect him in his fighting achievements because he did a fantastic job with what he had. But I don't know if he knows much about boxing or the logistics that go around in the area of boxing. Actually, I can guarantee you he doesn't. I've been involved with the boxing community since, I don't know, 2015 with KO Boxing. I've learned a heck of a lot of stuff over the years. And I've watched guys make their pro debut against guys that are 0-1 or 1-0 or 2-0 or 0-2. And I watched them kind of climb up the ranks and do the thing. And what Jake Paul is doing is not exactly the same as what these up-and-comers are doing. So let's maybe steer clear of comparing Jake Paul to a actual professional debut boxer. And let's put him back in that entertainment area. Where I think is where he actually wants to be. I don't think he wants to be considered a professional boxer, even though he says he does. He's about that life. But the guy's got $1 bazillion in the bank. What the fuck does he need to fight for? All he's doing is fighting for likes. Realistically, if no media, I'm making a mistake today by even talking about him. But if no media talked about him, this would go away very quickly. But everybody needs something to talk about, so fuck it, why not? The last thing I'm going to discuss today is a response to Chael Sonnen. I gotta tell you, Chael Sonnen is my guy. If I need information, I go to Chael Sonnen and I listen to one of his shows or what he's doing on YouTube. The guy's got fucking information for days. So Chael has been harping on this BMF title. And he wants to keep it alive, but nobody else wants to keep it alive. And he really wants it to keep going. And so do I. So I'm on the same page as Chael here. I want the BMF title to stay alive. I want Jorge Masvidal to go in there and defend that goddamn thing. But how do you get that done? Because the BMF belt is a very weird name. I think it should be like, if you guys remember WCW back in the day. So that's professional wrestling. They had something called the TV title. And it was defended every time Monday Night Nitro was on TV. So I'm not saying that this belt needs to be defended every time UFC's on TV. But I think it's something where it'd be kind of like a legends belt, where you got the prelims live on ESPN or whatever, and the main event is a 5-round title fight for the BMF title, Jorge Masvidal versus Conor McGregor, or Donald Cowboy Cerrone versus, it's just, it doesn't give, who gives a fuck, but Tony Ferguson, fuck, he's a guy that deserves these kind of fights. So I think that's what the BMF title should be, the main event for the prelims, and that's where it should be defended and won and retained and all that kind of stuff. But there needs to be a prerequisite for these fights. Like, the biggest thing I hate is when we see these guys that were at the top and now they start coming down and then they get cut from the UFC. Like, Diego Sanchez deserved to retire in the UFC. Chuck Liddell deserved to retire in the UFC. A lot of these guys that have gone by the wayside and gone to other promotions and lost and all that kind of stuff, they probably deserve to stay in the UFC. And I think that this is something that BMF title could do for them, kind of like a Legends only belt. So that's my thoughts on the BMF title. I'd like to keep it around. I'd like to see it defended, and I'd like to see it fought for. And I think it can only draw more eyes to the prelims, if I'm honest. Like, if we got something live on TSN in Canada, we've got a UFC fight, and then the main event is for the BMF belt, 5 rounds. That's almost like a mini pay-per-view in itself. So those are my thoughts. Keep the BMF title around, guys. I'm out of here for today. That's the final shot.